Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, I want to talk to you about Bigfoot in the Four Seasons. Bigfoot and Bigfooting in the Four Seasons. And I don't know how often you guys think about this, but something I often thought about, and I actually shared a lot of information on this before. So I'm going to try my best to point a few things out. When's the best time to go squatching? Well, in my honest opinion, there's no wrong time to go squatching. We have four seasons. We have spring, summer, winter, fall. Okay. A lot of people like to go in the spring, summer, and fall. A lot of people try to avoid winter. Why? Because, when they think of winter, they think of snow, nasty cold weather. Well, when you got snow on the ground, for one thing, snow, hey, it produces tracks. That's a fact. Snow produces tracks. Springtime. A lot of times you get a lot of rain through the spring, even throughout the summer. Rain happens year round. After a good rain, sometimes the ground's soft enough in a lot of areas, allowing certain areas to produce tracks because the ground gets soft and wet. Of course, a lot of times the rain will also wash away tracks and dilute them. But my favorite times of the year to be squatching, spring and going into fall. Why? Well, the answer is everybody that's familiar with spring, comfortable temperatures, and as we got springtime going into summertime, a lot of the leaves and the foliage are starting to come back, and all the wildlife are moving around, starting to eat and get active again. And apex predators are on the move because they feed on the smaller prey that's moving around. And the big predators got to move around. They got to follow where the food source goes. Just like in the wintertime when the weather gets cold, when the food sources become scarce, when a lot of your wildlife, some of them might migrate, move off to warmer areas. Well, the squatches are most likely to do the same thing along with other apex predators. So, but as far as squatching around spring and then in fall, again, there are comfortable temperatures where wildlife are easily moving around. Summertime, just like people, we try to avoid the heat because we can't stand the heat too much. A lot of your wildlife, they're going to avoid a lot of these hot temperatures. They're going to stay in the shade, stay bedded down. A lot of them are going to be close to the water sources. Think about that. That's very important to know. A lot of your wildlife, mainly your big predators, they're going to follow the water source and other food sources. So these are very important pieces of information. So my recommendation through the spring and summer, if you want to find possible signs of squatch, follow your waterways. You're going to come across a lot of bear sign. So be careful. Do not mistake your bear tracks for squatch tracks because it is done quite often, and the percentage is fairly high on that because there's a lot of rookies out there, a lot of amateurs that are very unfamiliar with wildlife and their tracks. That's why I speak a lot about wildlife. People need to learn to become familiar with wildlife and how to identify tracks properly. Anywhere from your smallest little mammal to your large apex predators, bears, mountain lions, and so forth. It's very important. It's crucial to learn this. Part of it's for your own well-being, safety. And, I know we got people out there taking plaster and pouring tracks of possums and calling them little juvenile handprints belonging to a Sasquatch. No, anybody who's familiar with possum tracks, for example, possum tracks, if you read a description about them, it clearly says they look like the infant hands of a human baby. But they're not. They're not. They belong to a possum. Raccoons are very similar. People mistaking raccoons for possum tracks. So, and just like bears, a lot of people mistaking bear tracks for Sasquatch tracks because their hind foots look almost humanoid. True story. So, But right now we're going through our winter year right now, and here on the East Coast. And I know some parts of the country the temperatures vary. There's warmer climates in some parts of the country. Go down to Texas, even Florida. Florida's actually experienced a little bit of cold temperatures this year. But look at down south around Texas and so forth. Very warm climate. Of course, people believe in hibernation or migration. Excuse me, I should say migration. There's a lot of animals that migrate, mainly birds. When you think of migration, it's mainly related to birds. I do believe a lot of other wildlife, they do move and travel, but I do believe there's a limitation on their travel. They're going to move, but only so far. So I don't see a squatch going from Virginia down to Texas anytime soon. That's highly unlikely. People have this concept where they think migration, yeah, they're going to move down south like the Canadian geese usually do. Nope, it's not like that. There's other areas in terrain surrounding their main inhabitants where they may escape or resort to, so that may produce more shelter. So that's something seriously you need to consider. So I'm not no expert, but when it comes to wildlife, I have a great deal of knowledge with wildlife, and I understand how they work. Based through my studies, observations, and so forth. And it's a little bit what I want to share with you today. So for squatching through the 4 seasons, there's no wrong time to go squatching. Each year produces something that the others don't. Again, wintertime, when there's snow on the ground, get out there. If your area is safe to travel to, get out there. Hike around. You might find tracks. Because here in Virginia, a lot of people think black bears, the bears hibernate. No, they don't hibernate around here. They might slow down a little bit, but they're on the move. I have found numerous bear tracks throughout the winter. I found there are other signs of them throughout the winter. So think about that. Not all bears hibernate, people. That's a fact. So, but throughout the fall, yeah, they're just like a lot of wildlife. They're very heavily active, and they do grub out. They do fill up their bellies because they know the food sources become limited or scarce in the much colder temperatures. So here's a little something to think about, and I hope this little bit of a tidbit, my squatch thought of the day of the 4 seasons, might shed some light for you. But don't be afraid to get out there, regardless of what time of year it is. The other thing is, as a researcher, if seriously, you're going to want to be out there all 4 seasons throughout the year for learning purposes. You want to observe the changes due to the climate change and everything else. It's part of how we conduct research in a serious manner. And it's simple science, people. Simple science. And it doesn't take, you don't have to be a scientist to understand this. It makes sense. So, but this is Daniel Benoit, founder of the ECBRO. And this was my squatch thought of the day in the 4 seasons of Bigfoot. Keep it squatchy and get out there. Learn your wildlife and spread the word. Thank you very much.